Hivemapper has been getting a lot of attention recently, and you may be considering becoming a contributor with this project. And I'm seeing a lot of questions about what the earning potential is. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to cover in this video. Starting with what the ultimate driver profile is, and then I'm going to get into MIP7 or Map Improvement Proposal 7 that's going into effect in January and how that's going to change how the earnings work. But whether you're an individual contributor or looking to build out your own fleet, you can start strategizing today to maximize your earnings in 2024. And lastly, I'm going to go over the types of earnings that I'm seeing within drivers across my fleet today to give you a real baseline. Now, before I get started, I have to say, nothing in this video is financial advice and it's for your entertainment purposes only. You should always do your own research. All right, let's dig in. So the number one thing to consider is whether you are driving during the day or not, because ultimately daytime imagery is what matters with this project. In fact, the Dashcam won't even allow you to map outside of daytime hours. Now, the second thing to consider is what type of driving patterns do you have? If you're driving to and from work 10 minutes and driving the same roads every single day, you might not be super excited with your earning potential. But if you're on the road a lot and you're driving differentiated routes, well, you can do really well with this project. And the professions I'm talking about are Uber and Lyft drivers, Amazon Flex, or sales road warriors. In fact, I have a buddy that flies all over the country for work, and he brings his dash cam with him everywhere and puts it in his rental cars. But as far as the driver profile goes, if you are a daytime driver and you're on the road a lot and driving differentiated routes, you can do really well with this project. But next, I want to talk about MIP7 and how that is going to change earnings in 2024. But first, I want to explain the thought process behind MIP7 and what the Hivemapper team is looking to achieve. So 2023 was really about just getting this project kicked off and getting contributors out there. And I would say it was a very successful year because we mapped 10% of the world's roads, and there are already customers buying this data today, real revenue coming into the project. But 2024 is going to be all about getting that 10% global coverage up to 20, 30, 40%, and then getting really good coverage in high value areas. And when I say high value areas, I'm talking about your major cities and the interstates between them. And not just getting coverage, but having good coverage and a high refresh rate. That brings a lot of value to the network because that's one of the biggest differentiators for Hivemapper over, say, Google Maps. And there are a lot of consumers out there that may want to see a specific spot multiple times a week or even sometimes multiple times a day. And Hivemapper is the only place they can get that data. So I'm going to show you how you can use the Explorer on the Hivemapper website to implement the changes that are coming with MIP7 into your driving strategy for 2024 to maximize your earnings. So if you go to hivemapper.com/explorer, you will be able to see all the roads that have been mapped so far. And the brighter the pink the road is, well, the more recently it was mapped. If you're thinking about being a contributor, one of the main things I would look for first and foremost, are there many unmapped roads around you? Because starting in 2024, you'll be able to earn 1 honey per kilometer mapped if you're the first person to map a road. And obviously, because we're so early in this project still, there's a really big opportunity there for you. Now, the next thing I look at is whether you're in one of these high value regions or not. And you can see where these regions are by going to the bottom right hamburger symbol down here and clicking on regions. And it's going to show you in the outline areas where these predefined regions are. But then you really want to dial into the actual metrics in each region. So you notice on the left side of the screen, you have regions here. You can go ahead and click on that. And this has all the individual metrics per region. Now, there are two columns I want to draw your attention to. Number one is the weight. In 2023, this is really the main factor. Now, the higher that percentage, generally the more earning potential there is. But in 2024, there's a new factor that you need to consider, and that is the progress category. So if you look at the MIP7 details, you'll see that once you hit 70% progress, you get a 1.5 times multiplier. At 80%, you get a 2x multiplier, and if you get over 90%, you get a 3x multiplier on the earnings in that region. So going back to the Explorer, you want to look at both the weight and the progress percentage. Looks like this area of Malaysia is really good at a 0.349% weight and 99% coverage, so they'd be eligible for that 3x multiplier. Scrolling through here, Tampa looks really good. 0.39% weight and 98% progress, so it's eligible for that 3x multiplier. Mom, if you're watching, when I come visit you in St. Pete next month, we're going to be taking a lot of Ubers. But again, what I would recommend doing, look for unmapped roads in your region and see if you're in one of those high value areas that has both a high weight percentage and if you're closing on that 70+% when it comes to coverage, because you get those multipliers. And if you can combine both and map unmapped roads in one of those high value areas, you should be able to do really well. All right, let's talk about how the earnings with MIP7 will impact the different contributors in the network. Starting out with the people that might earn a little bit less. If you're one of those people that was driving 10 minutes to and from work on the same roads every single day, well, you probably will see a drop in your earnings. Because in 2023, you were getting 1 honey per kilometer mapped regardless of where it was, and if it was the same road over and over again. But frankly, that isn't really bringing much value to the map. But you can change that because you can look on the Explorer and see if there are any unmapped roads and take a slightly different route to work every day and still get that 1 honey per kilometer, and that is bringing value to the project. project. The other people that might see a slight drop are people in these bounty regions. So in 2023, there were certain areas that Hivemapper wanted to incentivize collection in. And in these 7 regions, that bounty is expiring at the end of the year. Now, the one caveat to that is if you're in one of those regions and you have 90+% coverage, you'll still get that 3x multiplier. So your earnings should remain mostly unchanged, but otherwise you probably will see a drop in the earnings. But for the vast majority of participants, you should expect a 15 to 20% bump in your earnings in 2024. All right, let's talk about what I'm seeing across my fleet. So I've been building up my fleet for the last year and a half. In fact, I pre-ordered my Dashcam the first day that it opened up back in April of 2022. And I'm up to about 50 drivers in my fleet. Now keep in mind, I have strategically placed my cameras with Uber and Lyft drivers, Amazon Flex, and sales road warriors that drive a lot during the day in these high value areas. But the range I'm seeing is anywhere from 1,200 honey per camera weekly to as much as 5,000 honey per camera weekly. Now that's the total earnings per camera, and I do split that with each driver. And it definitely depends on where they're mapping and how many days a week they're mapping. But pretty much all the drivers in my fleet are minimum 4 days per week. But still, I would say that's very solid earnings. Now, based on the MIP7 changes coming up, I do think that most of my drivers fit in that profile where they should see anywhere from a 15 to 20% bump. So all in all, I think 2024 is going to be a really solid year for contributors if you're the right type of contributor and you're bringing real value to the network. Now, in my next video, I'm going to give you the blueprint how I qualify and recruit Uber drivers into my fleet. So if you're looking to build out your own fleet, you should definitely check that video out. But please do like, subscribe, comment below. As always, I appreciate your viewership. Signing off, this is Bradley Meyer with the DePIN Connection.